International days and weeks are occasions to educate the public on issues of concern, to mobilize political will and resources with a view to addressing global problems, alongside celebrating as well as reinforcing achievements of humanity. The existence of international days predates the establishment of the United Nations, but the UN has embraced them as a powerful advocacy tool. August 12th of every year marks the commemoration of the International Youth Day. This year's celebration is no different in addressing the plight of youth and promotion of youth participation in decision-making processes at all levels. Welcome to the program, Young Parliamentarians. I'm your host, Joshua Oguchide. Our guest today is no other person but Azizat Ishawu, the first female speaker of the Nigerian Youth Parliament. We'll unveil her shortly after this break. Don't go away. Welcome back. Our guest on the program is the current speaker of the 5th Nigerian Youth Parliament. She's a medical doctor and, like I said earlier, the first female speaker of the Nigerian Youth Parliament with over 6 years of active experience in grassroots mobilization, citizen engagement and stakeholder management. She has worked with NGOs like Involve Africa, Constitution Lab and many more to advance democracy and human rights. Welcome to the program, Dr. Azizat.
Thank you so much, Joshua, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's start with your current assembly. How far have you gone with legislative activities over there?
I think that the Parliament, the 5th session has been on for almost 3 years, and in that period we've had several engagements. We've had 2 legislative sittings, we've had some trainings, and we've also had activities at grassroots level and also on social media as well to promote issues that affect young people. Most recently as well, we've also had resolutions that have been tabled to the National Assembly, especially through the committee, the House of Rep Committee on Youth as well. And then also, over the years, we've also had some recommendations and activities that we've proposed to the Ministry of Youth. So in the last 3 years, I think that we've engaged in a lot of activities on behalf of young people, and then we also advocated for issues that are important to young people.
The theme for this year's International Youth Day is Clicks to Progress, Youth Digital Pathways for Sustainable Development. On that note, what does the concept digitalization encompass in advancing the sustainable development goals of the United Nations?
Thank you so much, Joshua. I think that for me, digitalization in general is referring to how we now do things, and I think that we will have several revolutions: industrial revolution, automobile revolution. Now we are in information technology age, and this just means that how are we now doing things? What are the benefits of doing things, and how do we bring development closer, especially to our developing countries as well? So I think the topic or the theme itself is shining light, and is bringing to focus the relevance of technology, particularly information technology, to how we do things generally across the world. It's bringing closer the conversation of the fact that what technology can be used to advance health, agriculture, liberties and rights, development all across, and then making the world a more global village, like we say. Yeah.
Moving on, a particular data shows that young people are leading the charge in digital adoption and innovation, with 3/4 of those aged 15 to 24 using the internet in 2022, a rate higher than other age groups. However, disparities persist, particularly in low-income countries and among young women who often have less access to the internet and digital skills compared to their male counterparts.
So I think it's worthy to note that the future is digital, and as much is a necessary skill for every young person or every person that is going to occupy the world, going forward. And as such, it is not a surprise that a lot of young people particularly are adopting this means of communication, or is adopting this as a form of strategy for doing things as well. And you are right that there's a lot of gap in terms of, access to digital technology, access to the internet, access to, some of this digital technology or equipment or gadgets, as we used to say, in, develop under, so in rural communities,
exactly,
under developed communities, and then, you know, women and some vulnerable groups as well. And I totally agree with you. And I think that the challenge is lack of proper, you know, use of this asset, of this new thing, of this new way of doing things as well. And so digital technology innovation is a double-edged sword, right? So it has a tendency to further widen inequalities, especially if the fastest and newest way of doing things, if the more improved and more efficient way of doing things is through digital and technology, and then, you know, this is not readily available to everyone. It is not cheaper, it is not accessible, and it is not available. So you see a situation whereby lack of proper planning or lack of strategy to ensure that this new asset is available to everyone can further breach those gaps. So in order to get that done, you have conversations around building the skills of, you know, of people, of women, of vulnerable communities, of underserved community, improving their access to digital training, you know, improving their access to what digital opportunity skills as well. So I think those are those strategies to put in place to what bridge that gap.
Okay. Going by statistics today, there are 1.2 billion young people aged 15 to 24 years. That accounts for 16% of global population, and by 2030, the target date for the Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs) that make up the 2030 agenda, the number of youth is projected to have grown by 7% to nearly 1.3 billion. As the 2030 deadline for the SDGs approaches, what are the roles of young Nigerians in digital innovations in addressing global issues? The target is 2030.
Yes. So I think that I get this question all the time, and I always find a way to speak to an aspect and then focus on where the real conversation needs to be happening. So if you are seeing a lot of innovation, a lot of technology across the global world, it is young people that are already driving that conversation, that are involved in innovation, that are involved in research as well. Even particularly in Nigeria, I remember during the COVID-19, all the grants coming into Africa, Nigeria had the highest proportion, and then it was into what? Fintech, you know, digital technology, information technology, effective payment system. So young people are already doing their best within their own capacity to drive the conversation on what? Digital awareness, digital literacy, and innovation. The conversation for the rest of the world, global leaders, Nigerian leaders, is how do we create the ecosystems to ensure that what this continuous needed asset and skill is generated from time to time. We also ensure that what our ecosystem is able to absorb a larger number of young people into the digital pathway. What is our education system saying? What is our skill acquisition system saying? What is the job force saying? Do you understand? So if people are learning digital skills, is the market available in Nigeria? Are we adopting policies to ensure that what
and now we're
these
in the age
skills
of
is
AI,
available?
artificial intelligence.
Yes. So I think I'm even more scared of artificial intelligence, because if you learn artificial intelligence, where are you going to use that? And the next thing you have your people jackpying. You understand my conversation? So young people are already doing enough. I said that to you. Young people are on the internet. We are always clicking something. We are always creating something. We are creating social media content. We are, you know, when you're talking about how to use it, we are heavily, yes, we are heavily consuming, you know, the internet, digital technology. The conversation there is that how do we map or direct this language, this innate language for this generation to productivity? How do we create our environment? So when we're talking about the target, we're talking about infrastructural development, when we're talking about access, we're talking about availability, we're talking about the cost of technology. How easy or how available are those resources and structures for development?
Thank you, Dr. Azizat. We will now have a break. The program returns shortly. Welcome back, and thanks for staying tuned. Moving on, let's have a look at the quote of the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres on the commemoration of this International Day. The quote says, achieving the Sustainable Development Goals requires a seismic shift, which can only happen if we empower young people and work with them as equals. Is saying that we are equal, like we youth, we are equal to the general public. I guess this quote addresses your point.
Yes. Yes, so I think that from the quote of the General Secretary rather, is to bring to focus the fact that what going forward, government and all development stakeholders need to work hand in hand with young people. So we've exceeded, or we are out of the idea of, oh, we've done all this for you, then it is for you. But then from the start, from the very scratch, identifying the problem, drafting the solution, implementing the solution, and follow up. So if we are going to achieve some of these goals, the young people need to be at that particular table where important, relevant decisions are being made. What would serve as knowledge for young people in Nigeria might be a little bit different, you understand, on a need assessment to young people outside Nigeria or outside, our scope or the continent as well. What is needed? What are those resources? What are those challenges that young people face in order to access technology or to use technology in Africa might be different from what outside Africa. But then when we're able to bring these young people who are the recipients of whatever development that we're looking at or the goal to achieve, then realize that what we are planning towards a specific goal that can be achievable to both parts. And I think that the quote also emphasizes that the capacity of young people to be on the decision-making process as well.
Thank you very much for that. Other issues border on expected population increase, foresightedness, prominence in decision-making, politics, especially women like you. Here are the quotes illustrating these points. Half of the people on our planet are 30 or younger, and this is expected to reach 57% by the end of 2030. Survey shows that 67% of people believe in a better future, with 15 to 17-year-olds being the most optimistic about this. The majority of people agree that the age balance in politics is wrong. More than 2/3, 69% of people across all age groups agree that more opportunities for younger people to have a say in policy development change would make political systems better. Globally, only 2.6% of parliamentarians are under 30 years old, and less than 1% of these young MPs are women. What's your take on these, especially seeing yourself as a career woman, a leading representative of young legislators? The percentage is somehow low, very low.
Yes, so I think that there's something I've come to realize over time, and that is that there's always different groups of people, and people that community or society consider as vulnerable are least represented in very strategic decision-making process. And I think that the more we come to a better world, a more global, a more inclusive world, then we realize that different opportunities are available for different development partners, different countries to ensure that there's inclusion in what they are doing. Because an overall development would ensure that the views of women, the views of young people, the views of persons with disability, minority groups, ethnic groups are reflected in the global decision that any nation or any group of individuals want to take as well. So these numbers are very alarming, bearing the fact that a lot of social issues, a lot of global issues are domiciled among, women. When we talk about the issues of insecurity, we're talking about crisis regions, when we're talking about unemployment, we're talking about, some of the challenges, you realize that some of these challenges are domiciled in these vulnerable groups that I've listed. And as such, I think that I would speak to Nigeria, and I think that, first of all, this current administration has done a lot, or have made a lot of effort to ensure that women and young people are included in some very strategic decision-making process as well. And I think that shows the political commitment of Nigeria to change the narrative. The conversation that we would have is that some of these conversations need to be streamed down to other available political structures. Earlier in the year, the president committed to the 30% quota in the appointment positions across agencies and ministries, and that is a good win. Do you understand? Where we see a situation whereby young people below the age of 35 are board of members or even sharing some agencies.
And that started from the passage of the young, not too young to rule.
Yeah, so the young to not rule was an amazing, it was like a floodgate to what opportunities could happen. And this happened in 2019 also, that, reduce the age of young people to contest, reduce the age for contestants who want to contest for political office, presidency, and, at the aspect of the legislature. So I think that opened a lot of the door open to a lot of possibility for what we're looking for.
Exactly,
women
because you can see at the state
people.
level, so a lot of state houses of assembly, are filled up with youth,
young people. Yes,
exactly.
Yes, and I think in this particular session as well in National Assembly, we have a very large number of young people. So more that they have a committee, committee of youths in Parliament as well, to see. And I think that this is a good political bloc. They can always push, within the National Assembly for issues that affect young people. However, we're not making progress in terms of gender. So since 1999, this is the lowest that we've had in terms of the number of women, in Parliament. I don't think it's up to 5% or 10%. I don't think it's up to 10%. Yes. So it comes to the conversation that what is the indigenous or organic process to build women, and to maybe demystify some of the myths as to the capacity of women to occupy political leadership position, or what is expected, or how we view women in our society as well. So I think that a lot of research needs to be done into the process, and I think that one thing for women that I know is that what women are found in places where there's accountability and transparency, where there's efficiency and efficiency. So a lot of time our political space is still very shrouded in a lot of cloud.
But there's this threat that women, when they come into power, they may misbehave. We've had cases recently.
No, that is absolutely bogus, and that is just I call it parlor talk.
Allegation.
I call it bad talk. We've had men who has misbehaved terribly from the inception of this country, and we have brilliant women even in the deception of this great country who has fought for Nigeria, and we have capacity. So I'll mention most recent, we have women who has gone on global to represent Nigeria on global spaces in terms of politics, in terms of sport, in terms of business as well. So I think it's politics and it's political talk, generally. So I think that I think for young women, it's just, it just talks, one of those things to deter whatever it is that what you can do. There's nothing about misbehaving. It is in human character to misbehave. It's just that in our community, there are some certain things we expect from women should do or should not be doing. And I say it again, is that everywhere you go, every man feels entitled to the submission of a woman. And, when you have power, when you have authority, of course, your body language will change because you are expected to deliver. You're expected to do your best. And you cannot go up around, submitting to everybody when you have the position. But for men, it is understandable that men should rule, should be at the top of things. So when they behave in that same manner, it is not considered as being messing up or,
I've been speaking with Dr. Azizat Shihahu. She is the Speaker of the Nigerian Parliament. Finally, there has been a call for entry. As the Nigerian Parliament submitted any youth-led or youth-focused digital solutions that address the SDGs?
So I think that what we do at the level of the Parliament is not just for us, but to push for policies, recommendation that comes, at the level of grassroots. And I think that one of the things that we focus on is vocational skills from the digital aspect. I think last year we had an International Youth Day event whereby we brought about a lot of young people from around the digital skill development, that we were now able to make recommendations to the, to the National Assembly as well. And a lot of focus for me, doing my own session output, is particularly more inclusion to amplify the voices of young people. So we are promoting and advocating for, better resources for young people in the area of agriculture. We are also still pushing to ensure that what education is an important aspect. You understand me? We get education right, particularly for us in Nigeria. I think that specifically to digital, maybe not strongly. Maybe not strongly, but then the conversation that we've had over time is that we've always talked about how digital development will lead to advancement in governance, effective governance, and all that. So I think that would work. But then,
the UN disclosed recently that selected initiatives will be featured in the UN's official International Youth Day 2024 case study infographics and shared across UN communication channels. We hope our recommendations will be part of it as Nigerians.
Yes, I think that the recommendations from young people would be part of it. And I think that the work of the parliament itself is to always, we try to work daily with the National Assembly, so a lot of what we do is to push for those policies. So when you're seeing policies that are discussing the right of young people, then the parliament is part of those that are pushing for those conversations as well. But I think that the voices of young people are always heard on a global platform, and then of course it will definitely reflect, at the UN event as well.
All right, thank you. On that very note, we've come to the end of the program. Thanks for coming, Dr. Zizet. The discussion has been an expository one, hasn't it?
Yes.
You can watch these episodes also on our social media handles, scrolling on your screen. Let's keep encouraging our youth for a better nation. Once again, I'm Joshua Ogute. Join me next time on the program, Young Parliamentarians, and goodbye for now.